on through. Looks like a lovely clear day here in the Tembe Elephant Park. And bulls on the other side that I can see so far. A few of female impala and some more on the opposite bank as well. There looks like a woolly-necked stork just off on the right near those impala too. So a lovely start. So it looks nice and sunny here, but with that being said, let's go and have a look what the weather's going to be like across all the different locations. So it looks like across the board, pretty much a typical winter's day, apart from down in the Cape, where there is a bit of a system arriving and there are storm warnings out as well for the next little while. It looks like this picture is just frozen here, so I think we're going to hop on over to Okokoyo in the Etosha National Park. All right, and there we are. Also lovely clear skies. Probably a little bit of easterly weather still continuing in these parts. Lovely time of the year and nice to see the elephants at this beautiful waterhole. There's a couple of zebra milling about, I think, and there's some springbok off on the right. The old wildebeest or two. So Danielle Shah says, love from England. Nice to have you on board with us, and you're the first up. So that's wonderful. And a love straight back at you, all the way to the Mud Island. But I do hear that you guys have also been having some good weather over in the UK, so that's good. Oh, I think there's some kudu there on the opposite bank. I thought that might have been wildebeest just with their profile. It looks like a female kudu and a youngster. Sandy saying hello and welcome live at the Waterhole, friends. And Ralph, nice to have you on board as well, Sandy. Let's hope for some wonderful wildlife sightings today. And the springbok on the right going for the mandatory dip. They really do like going into the water. Them and the gemsbok like it the most. And Harriet Hodgins saying, hello, Ralph, and all Wild Earth from a very wintry Cape Town. Yeah, well, that's coming our way, Harriet, and I think it's going to head up all the way up the east coast and then into the Lowveld. I think it's a rather big system that is making its way towards us. So I hope you batten down the hatches down there in Cape Town. So lovely to see these bulls here at Okokoyo and all the rest as well, of course. But we'll keep an eye on this particular waterhole. In the meantime, I think let's head on over to the Greater Kruger Park and Djuma. Where we've got ourselves at least one Cape buffalo. Ooh, look on the opposite side there. Is that a big water monitor lizard? Looks like a nice big one. Looks like quite a gnarly old bull, I think. What we term Dugger boys. Yes. See that huge boss on him. Not much hair left, so you got to wallow in the mud to keep himself protected from the sun. So Taxi Lady was saying a tiny bit of the UK has had a couple of sunny days. The rest of us have had wind and rain. Sorry for that, Taxi Lady. And hopefully you get some sun soon. Now, just getting some updates from the directors saying that this buffalo has been around since this morning. And there were 2 herds actually during the sunrise safari. And Marips, the leopard, did some fishing by the dam just before going live this morning. So that's wonderful, actually. And what is this monitor lizard up to? They're always up to no good, looking for eggs and nests or whatever else they can find next to the bank. There's another one, 2 of them. Wow, I nearly got something there. Was that either a frog or a fish? It's almost like he's using his tail as a bit of a net or a trap to bring the fish in towards its mouth. That other one on the left that was doing that. That was actually very interesting. I've never seen a monitor lizard doing that, but that would be a wonderful technique to actually curl your tail around. As the fish see that, they swim away from it and straight into your mouth. See the long forked tongue of them coming out constantly as well. Sandy was saying so cool to see them swim. Yeah, very, very cool. And Catherine saying hello from a cold and rainy Germany. Welcome aboard, Catherine. It was just a fish that rose there. I think it was a catfish. Sharp tooth catfish at that. We call them barbel. Definitely lots of fish movement around. Maybe that's what's attracted these Nile monitor lizards. Quite a bit of wind currently, as you can see. It's just wobbling the camera a little bit. Sounds like white-fronted bee-eaters calling now. So Chad, who's 11, was asking how big can monitor lizards grow to? So Chad, that right from the tip of their tail to the tip of their snout or their nose, they can get a little bit over 2 meters. So they can get very big and probably almost double the size, maybe a little bit less of what they are now. But this is sort of generally what you see as a reasonable sized monitor lizard. You also see lots of smaller ones. You don't often see them as those huge, big 2 meter monitor lizards. This is more so the size that we see. And they are voracious predators, and they're also scavengers. They'll feed on whatever they can find, from fish to frogs to eggs to birds themselves. And if there are any carcasses nearby, they'll also feed on that as well. But they generally do stay in and around the water. That's why they're called water monitor lizards. Where the rock monitor lizard, which is slightly different to them and doesn't quite get as big as them, but you could mistaken them for each other quite easily. Oh, there's a hamakop. But the rock monitor lizard, um, a very good tree climber. Look, the water monitor lizard can also climb trees next to the water and nearby. But the rock monitor, often found out far away from water, and they can often be in the rocks or up in trees. Very, very good climbers. And then they obviously go for the nests and so on that they find in those areas. And the hammerkop bird, or hammerhead, directly translated, but we call it a hammerkop in English or Afrikaans, doesn't matter. You see, he's quite a good fisherman as well, going for the likes of frogs and fish, whatever else he can find along the water's edge. These monitor lizards also have an incredible whip on their tail, which they use as a weapon as well. I would have to say that a monitor lizard's probably got the best power slap out there. I've seen a couple of videos with young leopards trying to take them on, and literally just getting slapped every time they go in and try to get onto the monitor itself or go for its head. They get slapped by the tail. It's incredibly strong and a good defense mechanism. It looks like the hammer cop still continuing on. The fish. See if it can catch anything there. While the monitors, I think they're now just going to be sunning themselves, getting some energy. The water levels have dropped quite substantially. I've not seen a little island there up until now, but I haven't seen the Juma waterhole for some time. But steadily dropping are the levels, and that'll obviously continue on until they get more rain to replenish. So this is this would be termed a natural water hole, but it's actually just part of a natural seasonal river system. And there you can see there, we're zooming into now, they've just dammed it up. So it's not replenished artificially, it is naturally filled up, but that wall there is obviously artificial. So it's just making the water remain over longer periods of time than it would if it was still just a seasonal river. And the Hammerkop just still working the shoreline there. He's quite a good fisherman, this chap. See, you got another one there. But quite small little fish, so might need to catch a few more. Okay, so lovely little stop in here at Juma, but let's change of place, and this time let's go to the Madikwe Game Reserve and Tau. We've got a nice herd of blue wildebeest just off the waterhole. Dung balls there in amongst them. For them there in the background, just engaging in a bit of horning. How low can you go? So this is just a bit of close combat. Nice to see a youngster here with so fully formed horns. They just go straight up quite some time, and then they sort of start getting that droop, or it grows out the side. You can see nice and clearly now in the profile here why they say in African folklore that these animals made up of a mixture of all sorts of other things. So the body of a hyena, the stripes of a zebra, head of a buffalo, and a tail of a giraffe. So the brindled gnu, that's what they call our newly formed government in South Africa as well. And all the old nests left behind by the weavers, they'll be coming back for those in the spring, I'm sure. Oh, there comes a warthog and some more wildebeest. Okay, so nice little jumping around in the beginning, and we're seeing a nice range of animals. I think we're going to change again, and this time let's go back to Tembe Elephant Park. Where we've still got a couple of big bulls just relaxing in under the shade of the tree. One on the left looks like he's got quite sizable ton in. And this other individual in the foreground looks like he's had a nice little bathe. He's got himself some mud. Maybe he'll have a bit of a dust bath now. So a bit of movement, not much dust bathing, and off he goes. Probably off to feed. And back, big boys just relax off in the shade there. Impala seem to really like it around here as well. It's probably good grazing. A bit of ripples in from the right. I wonder if it's the Impala that have gone down for a drink. See, sometimes I also notice a bit of a difference in the activity of elephants from one geographic location to another, and it depends on the local and climate, and obviously linked to that is the kind of vegetation that is present in the area as well, and how far they need to for food. So, in an area like this in KwaZulu-Natal, they don't really get a winter. And I think with this cold front in Cape Town now, there might even be warm air pushed in front of it. So it could be quite warm in parts. And so you'll see them a lot less active during the middle of the day if you compare them to other areas where it's not quite as hot as it is here. For instance, in the greater Kruger, it might be a little bit cooler, and so the elephants can be a bit more active during the middle of the day and not so much spending as much time to the water as well. And they can be feeding now and expending energy because wasting energy trying to keep cool. So it's always important to remember that in different areas, there be different behaviors from the same species present on different game reserves. So Laura, where can one find the biggest tuskers? And Laura, it's historically sort of up this eastern part of Africa. So extending from up these parts in KwaZulu-Natal, there's the biggest tuskers that are still here on the Tembe Elephant Park, and part of that bloodline that goes up to Mozambique and then stretches all the way up into Kenya, Tanzania, and the likes here at Old Donyo. So this is sort of where the genetic line of those big tuskers is. So I might have broken up a little bit there. It's sort of genetic bloodline of big tuskers is from this area here at Tembe Elephant Park and in KwaZulu Natal up further into Mozambique and right up into East Kenya. And that's historically, also forming a little bit further down and even going into the Kruger, that old historical famous ivory route. It's where the hunters obviously targeted these big tuskers, and they so team waterholes down to the management team of the specific individual reserve, and they will monitor it because we have contained the wildlife within it. There will be a monitoring of the waterholes, and if need be, they will replenish them, especially during the drier season, going into into winter. A lot of the waterholes can start to dry up. So when and where required, the management team will, the animal is not able to migrate and go look for areas where there's water. And what they would have historically and naturally done, we've blocked them, and they can't do that anymore. So we need to help them and manage those protected areas. And so that's exactly. They do that by normally boreholes, and then they pump it into the or dried up water holes, just replenish them. It will also depend on which water holes they do want to replenish, because that's part of a management where the animals will then find themselves and their lives and want certain areas, and you want to drive the animals to go to certain other parts which are underutilized. So you can use that as a real management tool in a water hole relation, especially when they start to dry out like that. Then you can manipulate the animals and fill up the water holes where you actually want the animals to go. And then they'll do that, and then they feed in and around the vicinity of that water hole. So a real management tool in manipulating the animals get their water from. Saying that the tree trunk looks like the elephant's head. It has blended in well there, Alan. That's a good observation. That one on the right there. And exactly the same color as the tree trunk as well. A lot down to the fact that the elephants have been rubbing on that, and the mud getting for water hole onto that. So, now. And a nice little family of Egyptian geese there, the little chicks. It's nice to see. And lot of guests and viewers often ask if elephants how they sleep. You know that one of them to me looks like he's asleep. Sleep standing up. Sometimes they lie down, but I think predominantly sleep actually in this kind of position. Time here, lots of diversity. Well, let's change of place, and this time let's head to Zimbabwe and Victoria Falls. Where it is for feeding. So I think all of these vultures come in now in anticipation, because they're still coming in yet. 1 o'clock is normally feeding time, but not always on the button. Of course, African flexi time, so around 1 o'clock. But I'm pretty sure the meat's going to be coming out soon. So this is going to be an absolute chaotic scene in a couple of minutes. So let's transpires. Got hooded vultures, white-backed vultures. I think there's the odd leopard-faced, but I can't see any for sure. Definitely hooded and white-backed. thing. They're helped along by the Victoria Falls Safari Lodge. It's not really a meal, more so than a snack. So it does just tie them up to get them the protein outside of, and it's a safe sort of protein. There's a lot of issues around farmers and poachers, vultures. So they just try here at the Victoria Falls Safari Lodge. I think it's a very noble effort. And it's meat that comes from the lodge itself. Nice way to use of the waste wise, and also to help with a bit of conservation projects, the plight of these big rapids. He says ready for vulture restaurant time. Yeah, and the numbers now, more and more coming in. I think the feeding is imminent. Yeah, here comes the meat. He tries to spread them a little bit because they do start attacking each other. So it gets thrown all over the place. Absolute chaos. Look at that. Here come the marabou storks. I think they find it a bit difficult because of their longer legs. Apparently, there is a real key within this lot. Not that it's very evident. Difficult to see. I'm always surprised not any injuries or more with the amount of chaos going on here. There's the Undertaker, the marabou stork. I would say that the whiteback vultures get the lion's share of the meat. Food disappears pretty quickly. It's all gone within a matter of minutes. So Sandy Franklin, 69, was saying, good morning, Tennessee, USA. Love on aboard. And Sanjeev Roy saying that Game Reserve has undertaken a remarkable project of vultures and game reserves in addition existing ones. Yes, Sanjeev Roy, absolutely. I think that project is well underway, but I don't have released too many just yet. I think they're all summatizing, etc. But it would be lovely to see lots more vultures being released, especially into the Eastern Cape region, South Africa, where they have been pretty much eliminated. So it's nice to see the return of vultures. I hope they get the buy-in from local farmers who play a big part in their elimination. Let's hope for the best. Taxi Lady saying, I love watching the buffet. It is fascinating. Watch him. Mindy Tillapore saying, wow, like a shark feeding frenzy. Indeed. And then there is a bit of squabbling between them. So look, they found another bit of meat there. There's a bit going on. And lots of fighting and to try and get a piece of that meat. Right, so it looks like the feeding is just still the squabbling going off. But I think we're going to change of place and we're going to head up to Kenya and Oldonyo, where the weather So what a lovely sighting this is, with two lovely big bull elephants and a couple of zebra. Yesterday it was rather chaotic here. We had lots of zebra that came and started to push the elephants back. Eventually they did that, but the elephants weren't very happy about it. I think there was not much they could do. Anyway, today, not so many numbers, but who knows? Looks like there's more zebra making their way in. So I think the same here. Yesterday there wasn't too much water left in this waterhole, but I'm pretty sure that they have filled it up quite a bit. And I think it's probably still filling up as we speak. So Debbie was asking what birds come to this waterhole. Debbie, there's quite a number of different species. What we've been seeing lately is the wattled starling. They've been coming in big numbers, big flocks. That's their general behavior as well. We obviously see the normal sort of doves, the ring-necked dove, laughing dove, red-eyed dove, emerald-spotted wood dove. But we have had some special birds too, particularly for this area. The what do they call him? I always get the name on the elegant starling, or the it's not the elegant starling. It's slightly different to that, but it is a starling as well. And then there's the cutthroat finches, which is one of my favorite. A very red bar around the throat area. It gives them that name. And then we've also had a number of birds of prey. We've had African harrier hawk, or the gymnogene, a number of African hawk eagles. We've also had a brown snake eagle. So it's been quite varied. Lovely birds coming in to drink. We had the secretary bird yesterday as well. That didn't come to drink, but was hunting in the background there. It might also have not come down to drink because of the chaos that was ensuing here with the zebra and the elephants. So maybe it waited its turn, and once it quietened down, maybe came in for a drink. Yeah, there are in fact a number of zebra in the area. I wonder what spooked them though. Sometimes it is the stallions just chasing each other around. That can cause a bit of chaos like that. Much like you see with the impala, the rams when they're rutting. Um, but obviously these are harems. Generally around 6 to 10 females within one male's harem. So it looks like the zebra now are ganging up a bit and pressing forward. I think they're going to dominate the waterhole for the next little while. Cynthia asking, are zebra generally easily spooked? Cynthia, yeah, they are reasonably easily spooked, especially where there's big concentrations of lions. So these zebra will know lions very well as they will be moving and out, sort of through their territories, different lions' territories, and they would know that being a bit spooky, where there are lots of lions, does pay dividends because you'd rather be a little bit edgy than become lunch or dinner. So PJ asking, can Ellies get as aggressive as they are in must when they are not? PJ, I think the levels of testosterone are like 60 times higher when they are in must. So it's difficult for them to replicate that when they're not in must. Um, they can get mad at things like lions and chase them and so on, but generally their demeanor, their mood, everything is just so much more relaxed outside of those periods in must that in my impression and my experience, I would say no. They don't really ever get as close to as aggressive when they're out of must as when they are in must, and that's it's probably a given that generally, you can't say never. I'm sure there are elephants that do get aggressive outside of must, the bulls, but not quite anything near what you can expect when they are. If we had to look at it mathematically, they've got a 60 times less chance of being aggressive outside of must than in. And now pretty much everyone's left except for the one lone bull. If you look at this bull here, this is the sort of typical demeanor and body language of a bull elephant outside of must. They just generally look docile, happy, relaxed. There's nothing really aggressive about them. Sometimes when the other bulls are around, there can be a bit of jostling, but there's nothing ever that's serious. And so, as a viewing animal, they are high up on my list. Yeah, an emerald, pearl spotted owlet calling. And there you could see where he's putting his trunk. The water's trickling out there, the nice fresh new water. So that's where he's getting his drink from. And nice to see up close and personal with the wrinkles in the skin. It helps both for thermoregulation and protection from the sun. Those little white dots in the corner of the eye, it's basically like sleep that we get. A bit of mucus that just helps to protect the eye and clear it of any nectar or pollen from trees and any dust and whatever other grit might get into the eye. Very long eyelashes as well to help that protection too. Alex saying I could watch Ellie's all day long. What a peaceful scene. Yes, it is always wonderful to sit with elephants and watch them as they go about their business, especially a bull that's not in must. So Danny was asking, how often do elephants go into must? Danny, is generally once. Sometimes there can be a second time in a year. And it normally lasts between a month or two. And there is a pattern that they generally have it at a similar time of year each year. So that's pretty much how it works with the Ellies. It's not all the time, and it doesn't happen too frequently, as I say, pretty much on an annual basis. And we've also got to remember that the females, the gestation period of the babies is 22 months. So it's almost 2 years. And obviously, the females will come into estrus probably a bit more regularly than the males come into must. It's quite important because then you obviously get other males in must. They don't coincide, the periods when they do come in must. So that random nature of those periods for them then allows for a lovely mixture of genes within the breeding herds. Oh, there's a gazelle in the background. Is it? Oh, no, it's an impala. I thought the one at the back might have been a gazelle, but no, it's two impala rams. Lovely close-up view on the toenails of the elephants. Always nice to look at the detail. Oh, there's a dung beetle just moving around in the background. Probably going for some fresh elephant dung. It's one of the differences of the elephants versus other nailed or clawed animals. They've got toenails as opposed to clawed. And I think there comes a giraffe. Now, Maasai giraffe making its appearance. Okay, always a lovely stop in here at Aldonio. I'm sure we'll come back at some stage, but in the meantime, let's head back to Victoria Falls. This is just a little bit off from where we saw them at the Vulture restaurant. Not too far away, and we often see after the vultures and the storks have had their little meal or little snack, they then often come in and have a drink here as well. But nice to see. Looks like a small breeding herd of elephants. Looks like they just disturbed a hooded vulture. Some impala moving through there in the background. There's also a crocodile off on the left there as well, sunning itself just on the edge of the bank. bit of a close-up view on the crocodile, the flat dog. All right, so nice stop in here once again, but let's change of place. Let's go back to the Greater Kruger Park and Djuma. Some more buffalo around. That's always nice to see. Seems like they've been hanging. I wonder where the lions are. That's all. But lovely question coming in from Catherine saying, must unique to elephants experience something similar? I was just about to say no, elephants, but then I got thinking. All right, so apologies. There was just a little bit of issues, technical difficulties in the background, but that's all been sorted out now, I think, I hope. And so maybe we'll have it no problems till the end of the show. But there was the question from Catherine saying, is musk unique to elephants, or are there other male mammals that experience something similar? And Catherine, first up, I would have said yes, but then I started thinking about it, and um, there's a lot of mammals that do have this kind of rut, mainly the ungulates, and they have a specific period where they have an increase in testosterone. So that got me thinking that no, in fact, they're not the only ones that go into must. We just call it something different. And with a little bit of research, it seems there are differing opinions. Some people say elephants are the only ones that go into must. But then when I said, is the rut the same as must? In fact, there's a lot of scientists calling the must of elephants the rut as well. Um, so what happens with the ungulates when they go into the rut? It's normally the shortening of the days and shortening of the daylight hours that triggers this increase in testosterone and then starts them fighting between each other and obviously then seeking out the females. And it's almost exactly the same with the elephants, except that they've got an Urdu word which means intoxication. But if you've ever witnessed when ungulates are in the rut with that increase in testosterone, they are fully intoxicated as well. I've watched male ram impalas fighting with each other and not actually caring that there's a leopard just nearby. They just want to kill each other, and land up getting taken out by the leopard, and then they just carry on fighting the ones left. And I actually witnessed that once in Juma with Shadulu. She landed up killing two male rams, and she nearly took a third one because they just didn't leave the area. They carried on fighting with each other while she was dragging the first one up the tree. They started fighting again. She left that one up there, and she went and got herself another prize. And luckily, by the time she came back, I think the third one didn't have anyone to fight with, and so just moved out of the area. So he got lucky. But yes, most of the ungulates will go through a rut, which is almost identical or very similar, albeit with different animals, to the elephants that go into must. Okay, so lovely to see the Gemsbok having their dip here at Okokuyu, but I think it's time to head back to Juma. Looks like he's having a lovely splash. He's fully covered himself in mud, and it looks like he's not done just yet. He's looking for that perfect muddy mix that it's going to stick on him nicely and also obviously be easily to take up with his trunk. I'm listening to the sounds of the mud and the splashing and the kicking and sucking of the trunk and all that. It's delightful. So it looks like he's definitely finished his little spa session. He's heading off into the bush, most likely to go and feed. Yeah, a little southern black tit calling in the background. There's also the little blue waxbills, very high-pitched little whistle. And a chin spot batis. A nice full scan of the area. You never know when a leopard might pop out. So that bull hasn't quite left just yet. I think he might be having a feed there. It hasn't disappeared altogether. Alright, so now that this elephant's a bit obscure and we can't see him very well, change of place, we're still going to stay in the Greater Kruger, but let's this time go to Cat Eye. Another wonderful perspective, quite similar to Old Donyo, looking up at the animals from this camera. Thanks for viewing. Another young bull, it looks like. A bit of a mud bath now. Wait. And another pill-spotted owlet calling off in the background. You generally only hear them calling during the day in winter. Little three-banded plover just working the shoreline there. Cheetahs and other animals saying this is very elephantastic. Absolutely, once again. And lovely to have you on board, cheetahs and other animals. And ooh, hello. He's not the only one here. Looks like a bit of a breeding herd. red-billed buffalo weavers calling there too. Like the terrapins might be hiding for the time being. There's quite a few of them in this waterhole, but I think they do get a little bit edgy when the elephants come through. They could be squashed in the water. White-browed scrub robin calling now. So these ellies just really doing a nice past midday jaunt at the waterhole. Always the youngsters that enjoy it the most. So Miss M was saying that it sounds like quite a windy day out there. Yeah, it has. I think it's quite blustery, especially in that Juma area. It doesn't seem too bad here, but I'm sure it will come through as well. It's not too far um, between the two different locations. But then Taxi Lady was asking, how do fish and terrapins get into waterholes, apparently miles from rivers? Taxi Lady, mostly with the fish, uh, it's made down to catfish. They're the ones that pop up in waterholes almost magically. Sometimes they stay dormant in the mud when a waterhole dries up, and they can stay in that mud for years. They don't have fully formed gills. In fact, they're almost like half lungs. So they can survive just as long as they stay moist, and they must be buried in the mud itself, staying moist. And then, a few years go by, and then the waterhole fills up, then magically they're there. Then there's also the birds that sort of hop between water holes, and catfish. They lay eggs in strings, very similar to what frogs do, and it's quite a sticky, gooey, with these string eggs. So very often the wading birds that hop between the water holes, they get these stuck to their legs, and then they're carried across as well. Sometimes also eating the eggs, and they're not digested. And when they get to a water hole and they defecate, and then the sort of little hatchlings come out of those dung balls. So that's the way the fish normally get transported. The terrapins, they move around in the wet season. So when it rains, when we drive around in the reserves themselves after it has rained, you've got to be careful in the little puddles and everywhere that you drive, because you see terrapins during those periods a lot. So this is when they take the opportunity and they, sort of spread the population, head out, go looking for other water holes. But they need to literally walk there. They don't get carried by the likes of birds, and so aren't as lucky as the fish. So I wonder if this little breeding herd is going to slowly start moving off. I'm hoping not. See that little youngster there. Maybe he's going to kind of have a splash. Come on, chap. Oh, one coming right in front of the camera. It's nice to have that. So it looks like they are milling about a little bit and hoping that they'll stay for us a bit longer. So there's just a little bit of a breakup in the picture there. So I've headed on over to Okokuyo in Namibia in the Etosha National Park. And there's looks to be a rather young bull elephant on the left. And it's quite far, but I think he might be joined by a small group of zebra. These are the days that I love in Namibia. The east weather, but when there's just a light feathery breeze coming from the east, it is absolutely beautiful. It warms everything up, but there's not too much wind, and it's just really like a second summer in the middle of winter. It just makes for incredible conditions, and the most amazing sunrises and sunsets. There's a red-faced mousebird that I could hear calling there. Yeah, so it looks like just one young male. Beautiful reflection on the water now. There's a springbok moving through in the background. There's lots of animals also right up near the bush line there. Egyptian goose here in the foreground. A couple of blacksmith lapwings off on the left, just in front of the elephant now. Having a bit of a scratch on the back leg. So this is still early on in the afternoon. Most folks will still be having lunch or just finishing up and slowly be getting ready for the afternoon game drive when there's lots of activity going out from the camp and the best time for it. So Bella asking about the white rocks and saying, is it full of salt or do the animals eat it? So Bella, that's calcrete. It's a sedimentary rock that is here. We call it Tosha. It's a local name. It means the Great White Place. This used to be an enormous inland sea that was fed by the Kunene River from up in the north of Namibia. The border between Angola and Namibia is the Kunene River. And so it used to sort of turn south after flowing west, then turn south into this area, and it filled up this massive inland sea. But through tectonic movement and shifting of the plates, the river has been diverted to the ocean. So it runs straight west out to the ocean. And so it left this entire area to dry up. And as a result, there's a lot of mineral salts. The ground here is very salty, but this rock has formed as a result of all of those sediments. Um, so if you break the calcrete rock down and crush it, if you do taste it, it is very salty. But the animals get enough salt here just from the water that they drink, because it's also obviously dissolved mineral salts within that. In fact, they get so much that it's more so an effort for them to get to waterholes that aren't as salty. There are some waterholes right next to the pan itself that are too salty for the animals to drink from, and so they don't drink there at all. This, when you stay at Okukuyu, the tap water, it's fine to drink, it's safe to drink, but because it comes from underground, it does have quite a salty taste to it. So I often used to just put in a couple of drops of concentrated lemon juice, just to take that edge of the saltiness off of it. But I think it's actually almost like drinking rehydrate, because I always used to feel very good after drinking the water in Etosha. Um, but I must say, it does have a flavor to it, and it's as a result of this hundreds of thousands of years of this inland sea being here, if not millions, and all the deposits, etc., that have been, if with the water evaporating away, has left these concentrations, and so that's why you see this entire area looking like this, all white with the calcrete rocks. This would have historically all been underwater. All right. As always, one of my favorite places here at the Okukuyu Waterhole in Etosha. But I think it's time to change of place and let's head back south once again and go to Jabulani. So this is near to Hoedspruit. It's in the Greater Kruger area. We've got a couple of necking giraffe. Seems like the one's tried to hide in the bushes there. Now he's going to come around and try to get the advantage. They seem similar sized bulls. Getting the strikes there, using the neck as a pendulum and the head as a club. But then there's a lot to do with also the pushing and shoving as well. Oh, that was a good connection. A real wrestling match, as well as smacking each other as well. Always fascinating to watch, just trying to get dominance over each other. It's also normally for mating rights. So the giraffe don't really go into a rut or going into must like the ungulates and the elephants do. I think with them it just comes down to more so the mature males. When the females come into estrus, this excites them, and obviously then they want to mate with the females. But if there's other mature males, they will start to fight for that. And this is when you start seeing this kind of behavior. There's probably some female or two or few around that are coming into estrus, and so then these guys want to fight for that right to mate with her. So we're slowly coming towards the end of the show. Please don't go anywhere. There's lots of wildlife action coming your way, and there will be the sunset safari later on this afternoon. So the naturalists out and about, seeing what they can find for you, and hopefully lots of predators. I'll be back here again tomorrow, same time, same place. So I hope you've enjoyed today's show, but please join me once again tomorrow as well, because you never know what to expect. And what a lovely way to finish the show with these necking giraffe bulls. So that's it from me for now, folks. Give it horns, bush greetings, cheers.
Well, a very good afternoon to everybody. Thank you so much for joining us once again on this lovely afternoon on a highlight show. And yes, coming directly here from a Djuma Private Game Reserve in the northern Sabi Sands. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Cedric, and behind the camera we've got a Cam. Well, in the next half an hour, we are going to discuss exactly what's been happening over the last few days. Some amazing highlight clips from a few days ago, as well as from this morning. And yes, it's going to be quite exciting. As you know, this is on Safari. So if it's your first time joining us on this highlight show, all about the highlight show is just to pretty much showcase all the amazing sightings we've had over the